Well, so many things are going to change, including that picture you just saw of Dr. Ike Nwosu, who is a trade and investment promotion expert, as well as CEO Mortgage Limited. Thank you so much for your time this morning.
Thank you very much.
Well, but first, the currencies. Let's talk about the currencies changing before your picture.
Okay.
Nigeria between 1959, just before independence, and now, well, 2007, I think, we've had some currency changes here and there to like 13 times. Do you see any correlation between then, those previous ones, and this initiative of the CBN?
Yeah, thank you for inviting me. Well, Nigeria's currency, frankly, is a currency of West Africa. It's very important for you to know this. Forget that there are more countries using the CFA franc, but as the largest trading economy in West Africa, it's the currency management. The management of the Naira is very critical in the West African economic stability. So when you have gauged the period within which the currency has been changed, certain times you said, the main driver for it is the increasing necessity for improving the security features. This happens in other countries as well, developed and developing. So that is usually the main driver, because the increasing sophistication of technology results in ease of counterfeiting. So most countries change it within, as you heard the CBN governor say yesterday, 5 to 8 years cycle. Watch the United Kingdom. That's what they do. The Americans same. In this case, it's 20 years since the last redenomination, as the CBN governor said. I think that's a long time. So if you do between 5 to 8, so it's actually 3 cycles have gone. Because if you take the median, 5 to 8, so let's take 6 years, so 6.5 times 3, that's about 20 years. So we've actually lost 3 cycles. We ought to have changed it. Beyond the security issues, which the security parameters in the currency, that long span of 20 years within which we have not changed the currency has resulted in several other issues that the CBN governor highlighted. And so they are now under pressure to do it, because now a lot of non-state actors have impacted the integrity of not just the Naira, but the economy and the country.
So essentially you're saying that not doing what we ought to do as and when due, one way or the other, exacerbated some of the security risks that are now compelling us to do it now.
That is correct.
So there are at least 3 ways to look at this for a lot of people. Some have maybe described it as a brilliant move, a master stroke. Some might say this is a cane stroke on an already battered economy anyway. And some will say, well, it's of no effect. From where you sit, at least those 3 ways, how do you see this move?
Okay, let's start with what the justifications of the CBN governor. He says there are 3 main reasons why the Naira the currency management is being rigid. The first is because there is excessive hoarding of the currency. Now that's economic and national security. Second, there is an increasing absence of fit and proper notes. That's integrity of the system. And the third reason is that, what is the third reason? The security, the increasing counterfeiting of the Naira. Now that again is national security. So you find that on the average, national security implications are actually more the reason for this. Now those are his justifications. Okay. What are the advantages, the upside of this redenomination? So first, we are going to hopefully reduce the amount of money outside the banking system, because the CBN governor is saying over 80% of 3.2 trillion. That's about 2.7 trillion is outside the banking system. So hopefully we'll be able to get a lot more back into the net. I hope that we're able to do up to 50% of that 80% back. That's one. Two, we'll be able to get cleaner notes to improve the integrity of the system. Thirdly, we'll be able to curb counterfeiting, because the CBN governor was very clear. The increasing sophistication of photographic technology and printing technology has made counterfeiting easier. So what our expectation is that the new currency is going to have more updated security measures in it, so that counterfeiting will be more difficult. So we need to move, the government needs to move faster than the counterfeiting industry. Now, that's the upside.
Right. Okay, so for you, you see this both ways, not just a master stroke. You also see this as maybe with its own downsides. Am I right?
It has some downsides, yes.
Right,
I'll come to it. But the other upside again is that it will, when you reduce the money in circulation outside the banking system, it will help to improve financial inclusion, because now the financial inclusion policy of government is a bit threatened. Financial penetration, because a lot of money is outside the system. Another upside is that it will now make it a bit more, or maybe significantly more impactful when the CBN undertakes monetary policy measures. Because they've undertaken a lot of monetary policy measures over the past 10 months, and it has not really impacted enough significantly on inflation. Even the recent CRR, cash reserve ratio increase, interest rates, not. So maybe when they bring a lot of money back into the banking system, then the monetary policy measures will have more impact. So those are the upside. Then.
You said maybe.
Yes, it will, but to what percentage? So we are going to monitor that. And the CBN governor said that there will be continuous monitoring of that.
So you think this will impact positively on inflation?
It should impact positively on inflation, but the extent to which it will has to be monitored.
But you also mentioned,
I will come back to that point.
But you also mentioned earlier, just something that you said earlier, I just don't want to let slip. You said you hope we are able to get up to 50% of the money that's outside of the banking system back.
Yes.
So we may not be able to get all back.
We may not be able to get all back, and I'll give you my reasons.
But what's the implication of that?
Now, that's on the flip side. But I'll come back to it in a moment.
Okay.
A lot of things to come back to.
Yes. On the downside, on the downside now, the CBN governor is saying the banks, there are two immediate costs to this whole announcement. The first immediate cost is that there's going to be a huge amount of money spent by government in printing currency. Currency is very expensive to print. So the CBN governor has said the four higher denominations, 100, 200, 500, 1,000, is going to be printed. Note, he did not announce that there will be new currency for the four lower denominations, 50, 20, 10, and 5 Naira, because it's very expensive to print them. So that expenditure again means you're putting more money out, so that's huge expenditure for Nigeria. The second immediate cost, the banks.
Even though you left out 100 Naira notes, but go ahead.
No, I said 100, 200, 500, 1,000.
It's actually 200, 500, and 1,000. So there's 200, 500, 1,000. Left out 100 and the other ones.
Okay. Well, I see some reports say this, I see some reports say that. So I hope the CBN clarifies that. Now, the other immediate cost is the cost to the banking sector. The CBN governor is saying from now, no cash deposit charge. No bank should charge for anybody depositing cash into his account.
Yeah.
The bank should have their branches open on Saturdays to receive money. Now, what's the benefit to the banks? So, the banks are not going to get any financial benefit. They're going to incur costs. Staff are going to come in on Saturdays. Most banks have outsourced their currency management, their cash handling to third-party cash handling companies. Now, if you're going to get staff in to work on Saturdays, you're going to give them extra allowance, you're going to use the internet, you're going to run diesel, these are additional costs. So how are the banks going to recoup that? So that's an issue. So are they going to also renegotiate with their cash handling companies? So that's another issue. These are immediate costs. So that's part of the downside. On the flip side, now, when I said we don't know whether we're going to get the whole money back in, the 100% of the whole money outside the system. Now, this is a very good measure because like a lot of analysis have been made, a lot of the cash outside, politicians spending cash, the ransom payments, and a lot of people doing cash transactions even for trading. Now, in analyzing that flip side, you ask yourself the question, why is it that you have over 80% of cash, of money circulation outside the system? First of all, the main reason why people keep money in the bank is usually three reasons. Transactional, pay your everyday bills. 2, precautionary, you save money in case you have emergencies, medical accidents. 3rd is speculative, maybe for investment. You have your fixed deposit and the investment comes out to do that. So anything outside this three, and you keep your money outside the banking system, you're questionable. So it means, one, I mean, there's the fact that you have 80% of money outside the system, it means, one, people are not having enough confidence in the banking system. It may not be the overriding reason, but it's one.
All right.
2, you find that, and let me talk about that confidence in the banking system. You see, when people, the essence of the electronic banking that the CBN has introduced and has been pushing for is to reduce cash in circulation. But it has increasingly been failing. A lot of network issues. You see people transfer money, and when you transfer money, the bank charges you first for the service. You see, you get a debit alert first before the credit. Sometimes 1 week, 2 weeks, a month, the other person may not receive the credit. And now that causes problems in the trading system. So many people will prefer to just withdraw cash and pay for the service. So you see the confidence in the banking system there. So the CBN needs to call NCC, NIBSS, and they look into this problem to improve that. Secondly, not having 80% of the cash being outside means that there's a lot of illegal activity going on. People buying illegal crude, paying ransom in cash.
But crude is priced in dollars.
Yes, you use Naira to buy the dollar. You use Naira to buy the dollar. So, people are doing illegal business, either the crude business, whether it is petrol, they're exporting illegally, whether it is politicians getting ready for the elections. So, these are other issues that the CBN needs to look at in terms of integrity of the system. So, when you now analyze it, why am I saying they may not get all the money in, but I believe they will get a lot in? Because politicians, there is a window, it's 6 weeks. December 15 to January 31, which is exactly 6 weeks. A lot of politicians are going to start using the Naira because they are going to be afraid to pay the cash in because the CBN has already announced their monitoring. They don't want to go and buy dollars. So there will be increasing dollarization of the economy. They won't buy pounds because pounds will soon be changed because there's a new king. The queen has gone. So they're going to have them to change again. So
that might take a while.
Exactly. So they're going to do a lot of dollarization. So that's national security implication again.
So who do
and
we
that
begin
means,
to look
and that
at?
means pushing out a lot of Naira into the economy, chasing dollar, because the dollar will always appreciate. So that is going to also impact the inflation. You are putting more money into the system.
Just on that point, before you move forward, so if you say that a lot of people would shift attention, clearly they're buying the dollars from somewhere. Shouldn't attention also shift to that so that while trying to block this channel, they're not going through another channel? So how should that, what kind of attention should be placed on perhaps where they get the dollars from so that eventually we don't lose in one way?
Well, there has to be a collaborative framework. The EFCC, the ICPC, the NFIU, the police. A lot of people forget the police. This should all be involved under the Nigerian customs, who have now said that everybody leaving the country must fill a form or coming in. So there has to be a collaborative framework. They should go and learn from other jurisdictions how that's done.
And that's quite a lot of things. But let's quickly take Chamberlain. He wants to put in a question.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead.
So I was just listening to you there. So correct me if I'm wrong. You're suggesting that this policy, this decision of the CBN, is not going to have any direct impact on the value of the Naira?
The answer is yes and no. More of yes. Now, the actual and optimal thing that ought to have been done is that the Naira ought to have been redenominated, backed by productivity. But our economy is weak. Productivity has been declining. The manufacturers are screaming. So the economy is too weak at the moment, in our opinion, to be able to undertake a Naira redenomination. So basically, they are not changing the face value of the Naira. They're just changing the currency color and increasing the security features of it. So it remains the same. So it doesn't change the volatility of foreign exchange market. It's not going to. But to a large extent, it is going to help to bring your money back into the banks to a certain extent, not 100%. And I know that the CBN in the analysis know that they are not going to achieve 100%, but at least let them make a try. Now.
Okay, but, yeah.
Of what benefit would that be?
What benefit will what be? You mean if they don't achieve all? Well, the CBN governor said that there will be continuous monitoring of the financial system. That was the last thing he said before he ended the press conference. So as they move forward, they'll monitor and see and now decide what adjustments will need to be made as they go along. Because they will definitely keep statistics from banks, basically on a daily basis, how much more currency is coming in from people, cash deposits, and they have the 2.7 billion as their reference point for how much money they want back into the system. Again, mind you, a lot of Nigerians...
So I'm wondering, do you think, is it something we can afford?
What do you mean what we can afford? Let me understand you.
This new currency printing, the logistics, etc. Is this something that the Nigerian economy can currently support?
Well, the CBN has given the date December 15th, which means that they're already on with the production of the Naira, the new Naira. That's one. So the budgeting aspect of it is not an issue. On the logistics side, well, there's flood everywhere in Nigeria at the moment. So I hope they can get the currency across all the various areas where it will be utilized. But the economy, like I said, it was one of the aspects I said is a part of the downside, because there's a lot of expenditure that will be made on the currency. And mind you, it is only the upper echelon of the currency. That's 200, 500, 1,000. The lower denominations are not affected. So our economy is not too strong to handle it, but there is more important, there is a national security imperative. So it needs to be done. Weak economy or no weak economy, especially as we're heading into series of elections. The question again as to whether 6 weeks is okay is relative. There can never be a time you say that it is a time lag that you say is okay or not okay. The European Union did 60 days when they changed the euro in 2002. India did about 7 weeks when they changed their currency. So it's neither here nor there to say 6 weeks, but it means a lot of work. The banks, the bankers' cooperative will need to sit up, have series of meetings with CBN governor, because just like Mohamed has said, the logistics of moving the new currency in, because I believe it's being printed outside the country, into the country one, and then distributed within the country with all the difficulties of flood, robbery on the road and all that, to make sure no currency is lost in transit. It's a huge effort. So the security agencies are going to be on top of their game in guiding the currency distribution. The EFCC, NFIU and co are going to be on top of their game in watching the inflow of deposits.
And
so it's a
speaking
whole,
about that,
it's a whole lot of work.
I mean, there was a report about 2 weeks ago, I think it was credited to Bank of America, where they had said that Nigeria's currency is overvalued by 20%. And so do you think that this is any way connected to devaluation of the Naira?
Well, like I said, the face value of the Naira has not been changed. We're just changing the currency color and security features. However, the mop-up of Naira outside to reduce the amount of money that is not in the bank vaults will help to shore up the value of the Naira. One of the major, I hear you when you say 20% overvalue. That's fine. But you see, because, and this is very important, because the Naira is a major currency of exchange in West Africa, there is a lot of Naira outside in West African countries. Now, if you want to deposit that into the account, you need to bring the money back into Nigeria. So that means a lot of cash is going to have to move in through our borders. So that's something that the immigration and government need to look at. So when you talk about value of the Naira, there are other externalities that we don't have full control over. So it's a good measure. It may have impact, but the question is, all the agencies of government, not just CBN now, that have responsibility to monitor, MBS, National Bureau of Statistics, and co., you need to be on top of their game, because this is a mammoth effort being undertaken
just
within
one more thing from here.
A short time frame.
There was this information from the NDIC where they said 99.4% of the, I think that was about 70 million bank accounts in the country have less than 500,000 Naira in their accounts. And speaking about all this money is coming back in, where CBN says over 85% of money is in circulation outside the banking system. Just as Mr. Yusuf did ask while we were coming in, do you see any guarantee whatsoever that even if this currency redesigning happens, monies come back, is there any guarantee that it will stay within the banking system or it won't go back outside the banking system?
It's easy to give guarantees, but guarantees must be backed by facts. If you want a lot more money to remain in banking vaults, go and improve electronic banking. Because at the moment, the electronic banking system is suboptimal. It rains, network problems. Banks shut down nationwide, they have banking network issues. So a lot more people, if you have 200,000 Naira in your account and you need to do a transaction that is going to cost you 195,000 and your life depends on it, you're going to say, no, if I do the transfer, I may not get this thing done now. You go and withdraw the cash and give the person. Now that's one person, it becomes a chain reaction. So the first thing, go and improve the electronic banking system of the country. So NCC needs to work with NIBSS and CBN.
And I assume that will be some part of the logistics that you suggested the other time that should be factored into all of this entire process that we're talking about right now. But then it's also, part of the initiative is also around inclusion, financial inclusion, according to the CBN.
Yes.
What do you make of that? How is that factored in for those who may not understand what the CBN is talking about?
Well, the financial inclusion is supposed to push for financial penetration, particularly into the informal sector of the economy, who actually form the majority. The MSMEs, the cooperatives, they are the major economic players. Now, many of them do cash transactions, but there have been a lot of CBN sensitization on the need for electronic banking. So you keep money out. You don't keep money outside the system.
Why do we need money in the banks? People say it's my money. I can do whatever it is I want to do with it.
Yeah, agreed. They have the human rights. So you see, you are not going to criminalize it, because there is no upper limit to the amount of money you can have in your house. I'm not aware of any law that says otherwise. So you're not going to criminalize it. Well, that's something CBN we want to look into. So that is part of the challenge of financial inclusion. So you need to look at the architecture. With this measure being undertaken now by the CBN, maybe that is an opportunity to look into the financial inclusion aspect and how much cash can you have that is legal or not legal. Again, it touches on the fundamental human right to do what you want to do with your cash. So there are legal implications. There are financial implications, but I think it is better for voluntary compliance.
But that
it is better to do voluntary compliance by sensitization.
But that has to be based on trust, which you say is lacking largely now in the system.
Yeah, exactly. So people are worried about for you to have 80% of currency in circulation outside the system, It means it's one of the issues. There is a trust deficit in the financial system. So we need to do a lot of work. And let me say this to you. When you transfer money and the money is not credited to the person you sent it to, and you have a debit alert, the bank has charged you for the service, but has not delivered the service. What it translates to is that indirectly, you have lent the bank money for a month or two, and they don't pay you interest for it.
Okay,
so
collateral. Well, we have to go now, and that's another angle altogether to this conversation. Well, but we have to thank you at this time, for being a part of the conversation this morning, at least throwing some light and letting us to some of the implications of our action as a nation. Dr. Ike is a trade and investment promotion expert. He's CEO Mortgage Limited. Thank you so much again for your time.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
All right, done with sharing the Naira for now. We'll take a short break. We'll be right back.